Hello everyone, my topic is pre-takeover defenses. We know that takeover defenses refer to all actions by managers to resist the takeover. That is, the managers of the target company may try to defeat takeover proposals due to various reasons. And here I'm going to discuss different pre-takeover defenses. There is no single defense strategy suiting all situations, and therefore the choice of strategy totally depends on the acquisition strategy used by the acquirer and also the motives of the board of directors. First strategy is staggered board elections. A company which is trying to take over the control of a target company will try to get representation on target company's director board. So this approach is important for the acquirer because by attaining the representation and voting power on board of directors, the targeting company can try to influence the other board members to accept the bid, and also they will try to influence the shareholders so as to take a more positive stand towards takeover. So obtaining a seat on the board of directors can only be achieved through a shareholder meeting where the members are chosen with the support of shareholders. So this support can be achieved only by buying enough shares so as to vote, which will enable a single shareholder to take a seat on the company's board of directors. And by using staggered board strategy, the process of gaining influence and control on the board of target company becomes very time consuming and costly. The staggered board is the board comprising of three equal classes of board of directors who are elected on an annual basis. That is, staggered board is the governance practice adopted by some companies in which certain members, generally 1/3 of the total board of directors, are elected each year rather than electing all the members at once annually. So, this makes it difficult for a hostile bidder to gain immediate control over the target firm because it prevents the acquirer to gain control over the whole board instantly. This difference establishes a large delay for the bidder because he has to wait for at least one more year and is also forced to win two elections taking place in different times in order to gain control. Also, staggered boards are a moderately effective takeover defenses by preventing majority shareholders from obtaining control of the board for 2 years. This defense hinders and due to this limitation, the bidder's willingness to bid might reduce, and also this may increase the bidder's difficulty in getting financing. So, staggered board strategy is moderately effective and it is not an ultimate defense against hostile takeover, but it would be very effective in combination with other defense measures. Next one is supermajority amendments. Usually, making decisions regarding takeover requires approval with a majority of the votes that is greater than 50% of total votes. But if a company implements a supermajority amendment in its corporate charter, then this defense mechanism can raise this specific majority percentage required to approve large majority decisions to somewhere between 70 to 90%. So this amendment can only be included in the company's charter by the shareholders and not by the board of directors, but the board can decide to activate it. So in this defense strategy, it requires 70 or 90% of shareholders approval for any acquisition, and this makes it much more difficult for any outsider to make a takeover by buying enough stock for a controlling interest. So these provisions are also typically accompanied by lock-in provisions that require a supermajority to change the anti-takeover provisions. Some supermajority provisions apply to all mergers, and some other are applied only at the board's discretion to takeovers that they oppose or that involve a large stockholder. This strategy alone does not stop a bidding company from buying and acquiring a large stock of target company, but it makes it impossible for a bidder to gain immediate control over the target company, and also the deal will be much costly and unattractive. Also, the target company gets enough time to reflect over the deal and perhaps negotiate and pressure the bidder to present a higher premium offer. Third strategy is fair price amendments. In this, corporate regulation changes. A fair price is defined as same price to all shares. That is, a supermajority provision is waived if the bidder pays all stockholders the same price. These are designed to prevent two-tier takeover offers. In such offers, the bidding firm makes a first-tier tender offer for a fraction of target's common stock, and the tender offer includes provision for second tier merger also. The offer price in second tier is substantially below the first tier tender offer price, so this provides an incentive for stockholders to tender to receive higher price. Since most stockholders tender and since the bidder accepts shares on a pro rata basis, most shareholders will get a weighted average of first and second tier offer prices or the blended price. It's a mild takeover defense. By requiring same price for all shares, the bidder is forced to offer all shareholders the blended price itself, and this restructure the offer but does not raise the cost of acquiring the target. Next comes poison pill strategy. It's the anti takeover tactic adopted by a firm to discourage a hostile takeover. So it makes the stock unattractive for the corporate bidder who has given the hostile bid. Poison pill is one of the most used and controversial defense strategies. The term poison pill comes from the domains of surveillance. This refers to back in the days when agents were instructed to swallow a cyanide pill instead of being captured. So poison pill can only be redeemed by the board of directors. The logic behind poison pill is to dilute the targeting company's stock in the company so much that the bidder never manages to achieve an important part of the company without the consensus of the board, and thus the bidder will lose both time and money on their investment. So this is not only the reason for the use of poison pill, it has other implications as well. The use of the pill can be seen as tool for creating more time for the takeover. Negotiation process with the bidder, if they can agree on some terms and other terms, or even put pressure on the bidders to raise premium offer, and even further, thus increasing the shareholders' wealth. So it is a preventive measure, even though it is implemented after a bid has been presented. It increases the cost of acquisition and forces the bidding company to pay more for the stocks, and in return makes the target company less attractive. There are two poison pill strategies which are flip in and flip over. First one is flip in. This strategy enables the existing shareholders of the target company to buy additional shares at a high discount rate. This makes it possible for the company to issue preferred shares only to existing shareholders who have the rights to buy. Shares are issued at a discount price which is much lower than market value. So, these rights cannot be exercised by acquiring firm or shareholder, thus leading to dilution of bidders' shares because it cannot compete with shareholders who can buy them for a discount price. Second one is flip over. Flip over will issues rights rather than issuing preferred shares into existing shareholders. So these rights are only triggered and set in motion when 100% of firm shares have been bought already. It gives existing shareholders in target company the right to buy acquiring company's shares at a discount, even in the event of a total merger or acquisition. It's advantageous in defending a target because it shows a negative balance, or it has a negative impact on balance sheet, which comes from the raise in debt to shareholders as an effect of the right. So increasing debt means to raise the risk of the company's financial leverage, and thus it is seen as a very unattractive aspect for the acquirer who has to inherit these debts. But one major drawback regarding the flip over bill is that its actions are only made accessible when the company is acquired 100%. This gives the bidder a loophole by gaining control of the company but not acquiring it fully, and thus avoiding paying out rights to the shareholders. So, such poison pill is useful only for corporations looking to prevent a full acquisition. Next strategy is dual class stock. As the name suggests, here these plans restructure the equity of the firm into two classes with different voting rights. Usually, the class with inferior voting rights has one vote per share, and class with superior voting right has 10 voting per share. So, superior voting share is typically distributed to shareholders. It can be exchanged for ordinary common stock, but it has lower dividends or reduced marketability. This induces stockholders to exchange their superior voting rights for inferior voting common stock. Thus, managers of the firm will not be participating in this exchange. So, as a result, the managers will have superior voting right, and shareholders will end up having inferior voting rights only. This shifts the voting power to the corporation itself. So, it allows the company owners to hold on to voting stock while the company issues stock with little or no voting rights to public. Thus, investors can purchase stock, but they cannot purchase control of the company. They can purchase the stocks from the shareholders, but the control will be still vested within the management as they have superior voting right. Managers with relatively small equity holdings can control a majority of the votes after recapitalization, which gives the managers veto rights over control changes. Thus, even if a bidder was successful in acquiring all of the outside equity, it would still not have sufficient votes to replace the managers or will not be really able to control the target company they acquired. The last strategy is golden parachute. This measure discourages an unwanted takeover by offering attractive benefits to current top executives who may lose their job if the company is taken over by another firm. Benefits written into executives' contracts may include items like stock options, bonuses, heavy dismissal pay, and so on. Golden parachutes can be much expensive for the acquiring company because they will have to pay so much even if they are planning to retain or else expel the existing executives. So the acquirer will think twice before acquiring a company because if they do not want to retain the target's management, or if they want to retain, or even if they want to expel, they'll still have to pay a huge sum. So this will make it overall unattractive. So all these are the pre-takeover defenses.